Hey guys, Gary over at Stripwell. Just wanted to show you, we're going to attempt to strip this base using our QCS product. People have been asking about whether QCS can strip paint well or not. Paint is one of those things where even, like, we have a service where we strip, furniture and architectural pieces for clients using our kind of commercial system at our shop. Paint is tricky to really predict because you don't really know how many layers exactly there are, what paint was used. Different paints will come off differently. The thickness matters. I mean, there's just a lot of variables. The kind of wood it's on, whether it was painted on bare wood or whether it was painted over a finish. A lot of variables. But this is a newer paint, and we're going to attempt to strip this. It's actually a pigmented lacquer. We're going to attempt to strip it with our QCS. So the best application with QCS is spraying it. Now, we've sent out some samples, and we found that the bottles we were using for our samples to some of our beta testers kind of failed for some reason. Just the nozzles didn't do well. They kind of stopped working right. So that is one thing I would highly recommend you use a misting spray bottle, which I'm going to do now. What I'm going to do is just spray it on. And the other thing is that even though in some of the videos that I've posted, it can work very quickly, you can let it sit and really let it just work. There's a little learning curve because some of the harsher chemicals work faster in a sense. But if you let this sit and just kind of penetrate, it should get under that and work. So just be patient, let it do its thing. Okay, so now it is completely wet. One of the things some of our beta testers have noticed is that on verticals, a situation where you're spraying it and it's has the potential of running down. It does apply kind of not so great when you're using like a brush or you're brushing it on. It's too much product. You end up wasting product. So misting it is the best way because you can kind of mist it and it kind of grabs to the finish, and it will drip a little bit, but it'll cling. Like you can see, it's staying wet, and that's all you really need to do is keep it wet. So that's why misting it works the best, because you can kind of keep it just wet enough to work. You don't want to keep saturating it where it's dripping and you're wasting product. You want to just mist it on and just keep doing that every few minutes just to let it work a little deeper and deeper. All right, so patience is the key, especially when you're dealing with a newer finish. This is a newer finish, so this will likely take longer. Even our methylene chloride commercial strippers that we've used in our shop, again, on a commercial level, we find that it struggles even with some of the newer finishes. So this product, we're not trying to somehow be better than methylene chloride, the toxic chemical that is usually used for stripping. We're trying to be close to equivalent. Better is awesome if we can be, but we're also just trying to be equivalent. But the big thing is the safety, is avoiding the flammability, which a lot of the methylene chloride products aren't flammable, but the toxicity and all of that is definitely a problem. So we're trying to improve that end of it and make something that's safe for everybody. So I'm just going to test an area, and you can see I'm taking just a putty knife here, and you can see that this is starting to get under it. It's a thin finish, but that's a good sign. It's literally only been, and again, you have to take my word for it, but it honestly has only been 4 minutes, 5 minutes since this first coat. I haven't applied a second coat yet. So that's a good sign that we're already seeing the wood underneath. That being said, one of the issues that this particular piece is going to have is often in the factory, you can kind of see in here, they will spray the color on the bare wood. And that means that when you go to strip it, if you're like hoping to get it to be stained or some natural color, you may hit a dead end because it gets into the grain and makes it very difficult to get out. So here I'll show you. I'm just gonna take the steel wool. This is just dry steel. I'm just doing this to show you kind of, how it's coming off. This is not wet. It's actually better to wet the steel wool, which I'm gonna do. But you can see that what happens is that even though the bare wood is now, the surface coating is off, the paint gets into the grain. And no stripper typically will get that out. That's just the unfortunate thing about painting furniture. That's why if you ever paint an antique or a vintage piece and you just want to have a different style with a paint color, try to paint over some sort of a wash coat of a finish, something like a shellac or something to, shellac's a very good option because paint will bond to it well, just so that it prevents, it may not prevent it, but it's more likely to not get into the pores of the grain if there's a wash coat of a finish under the paint. Okay, so now I'm going to attempt to remove the finish. Let's see how it goes. Again, it started to come off there pretty well, so I'm going to go ahead. I did wet it one more time. Now I'm going to take a putty knife and see what it does on the legs. Yeah, see, so it's not quite coming off there. Now, sometimes with the QCS, I found that scrubbing does work better. So let's try some scrubbing. What I like to do when I'm doing like scrubbing, especially something messy like this, and stripping paint is messy. Like there's no way around that. It's just a messy process. Getting clear finish off is often much more enjoyable, or at least easier. Paint is just kind of a pain. It gets very messy and hard to get perfectly clean, but the liquid helps. If you use a gel, sometimes it gets really, really messy because now you have the gel stripper plus the paint, and it just gets to be like a really goopy mess. So what I do is I put some QCS, I just have an old bucket here, and I put some in there, and I'm going to dip my 4.0 steel wool into that, and then scrub and dip and scrub and see where we get. All right, I've done 2 areas. I scrubbed this area. And again, I 30 seconds off camera really. Did a little bit here on the leg. The leg definitely has a thicker coating. As being a flat surface, they probably were able to lay that on a little thicker. And these legs bolt on, so maybe they finished the legs separate and then attach them to the base after. The center area, it seems to be much thinner. I believe it's probably a nitrous cellulose lacquer because it's coming off relatively easily. I find that it struggles a little bit with the pre-catalyzed and post-catalyzed finishes, so it may be a nitrous cellulose. Could be a pre-cat lacquer for those of you who know what that is. But anyway, you can see how clean it's coming. The liquid really helps to clean off the residue because then I just take a towel and I just wipe it dry. So definitely working really well on this finish. Okay, just so you know, I'm not doing any funny business off camera. That's the side that I showed you, and now I'm going to just do a really small portion here. I'm going to get my steel wool, and I'm going to just do it really quick so you can see how it works. I'm going to dip it into my QCS. It's just white because of the paint that I've already put in there. It's the same product though, and you can see now that I've wet it, it just kind of comes off really easily with not a lot of friction. I'm not scrubbing very hard. Again, the more you wet it, the more it just sort of comes right off like this. And you can go up into the detail and just scrub it, and you can kind of feel the friction change when you've gotten it all off. So then once it's to that point, okay, so now it's just this residue. Again, you'll feel like your steel will start moving more smoothly. That's when you've released the finish or paint that's on the surface, and then at that point you're just kind of moving around the old color and pigment. So now you just take a towel, and again, it's tricky to do this one-handed. I'm just showing it to you. This is really grassroots style video, just so you get a sense of the product and you see it in real time. But you just wipe it clean so you can see it comes out really nice. It's not hard, and being that this is not toxic or flammable, it just takes some time. Stripping is not something that's really pleasant. This product makes it a little bit more pleasant because you're not killing yourself using it. And then you can not worry about flammable rags and such after. So that's QCS on likely a nitrous cellulose pigmented lacquer, possibly a pre-catalyzed pigmented lacquer.